Hey everyone, today I want to talk about how to add your custom environment to your Vision Pro app. And this is going to be a longer video because I need to discuss three different parts. The first one is going to be Blender, so the very basic operation and how to export your asset into Reality Composer Pro compatible format. And I'm gonna discuss some of the other tools such as like a baking and just a basic operation like how you can like do this. And also, I'd like to say that I'm not a Blender expert. So if there's a better way to do these things, please let me know. And I'm using an add-on called Simple Bake. When it comes to baking texture, it's really easy to make mistakes, and I've made so many mistakes before, to the point that I don't feel very comfortable teaching you guys how to bake texture in vanilla way. There are a few really good YouTube tutorials discussing how to bake textures in vanilla way. So if you guys want to do it that way, I highly suggest checking those out. I'll leave the links on the description. And mind you, this is a paid add-on, but this has saved me so much headache from my side. At this point, it was totally worth it. So first thing I'm gonna do is to download this Blender. This is the website here, blender.org, and then you can download any Blender. Right now, the Blender version I'm going to be using today is 4.0.2. The latest version they have available is, I believe, 4.3. But 4.3 has been like a little buggy for me, and like a 4.0.2 has been very stable. So as you can see, you can just go here, and then I believe if you're using any kind of Apple Silicon one like M1, M2, or something like that, I'm using M2 Pro, so I'm gonna download this one. And if you're using Intel Mac, you can download this X64. And once you download it, just install it as usual. So as for the asset, I'm going to use this Backrooms level 0 from CG Trader website. You can filter it to like a free asset, and then you can just download pretty much any of those. You'll probably have to like sign up for it, and then you can just hit this like free download button. You'll have to wait a few seconds or something like that, but it will give you option to download after that. Make sure to download that blend file so you can open it up on your like a Blender application. Okay, once you download the asset and open up your Blender, you can open it up like so. And then you can, I believe you can just ignore this. So first few things is that if you haven't worked with Blender, it doesn't really work as the same as other like a program. You can view around with the like a 2-finger trackpad and then stuff like that. And honestly, if you need to do some kind of like a viewing, I would recommend using this kind of like a toggle like right here. So basically like you hover your mouse cursor here, click, and then just like drag it around. And then if you tap on either Z, X, Y axis, then you can just like view it from that angle, and then zoom it out, zoom in, and whatnot. And then if you want to reset your camera, you can just tap on this like camera button, and then it'll just go back to that. And I want to basically limit the scope of the view that we're going to render or that we're going to import. So right now, as you can see, tapping Control A, well, it doesn't work that way. Or if you just look at this like a panel, they have a whole bunch of these like assets here, and we're not going to use all of it because we're probably going to use like somewhere in here, like basically like this region. So we're not going to use anything here, or somewhere like that. So what I want to do before consolidating the asset and like baking it, I want to delete like these assets that we're not going to use. So normally you would use this like delete key, right? No, it doesn't work that way. Blender is a little bit weird. So you can hit X button, then you can hit delete, X button, delete, X button, delete, like so. What I like to do, just for like a safety like cautions, is that I just want to like make a backup of every single like assets here. So I'm gonna do Command C, Command V, and then I'm going to move that out of the view. And by doing so, I will tap on this G button, and then you can move the asset around. And like since I don't know like if this is gonna like use like if this is gonna move it on the Z like Z Y X axis or something like that, I want to like make sure that I'm only moving through a certain axis. I'm gonna tap on X, and this one will only move alongside the x-axis. And I'm going to do the same thing on one of the walls. Command C, Command V, hitting G button and X. I'm going to move it along the way. And I'm going to repeat the same process on other assets you can see here. So I made a backup of all the other like assets like that are used in here. So I'm just gonna leave that out of the way. But if you look at the toggle, if you look at the camera angle, you can see right here there's an empty space, and we don't want to show that there. So what I'm going to do is to like move this floor. I'm going to do the same thing, G and then X, move it slightly out of this wall boundary, like that. And then from this camera angle, if I zoom out a little bit, there is an opening, and from the opening there's not going to be anything out there, so we want to close that out as well. And I'm moving this by holding onto the shift key, and then with the 2-finger trackpad. And looks like there's a little bit of an opening right here, so I want to close that out. I'm going to do the same thing, tapping on the asset, hitting G, and then moving through Y-axis, holding onto the Y key. You can do that, G and Y. And then I want to, if you tap on this button, you can see there you can't really see anything here because you just blocked off the camera. And what I'm going to do is to select the camera, G, and as you can see now you're moving this camera. And then I'm going to move this through the x-axis, so it is inside the building. And voila, now the camera is inside. So it looks like we're not going to see any of like these parts or like far away in like this area. And if we bake those, if we merge that and then like bake it, we're basically going to be wasting our resources on like invisible part, like the places like that we're not going to see. So we want to trim down our asset a little bit. Okay, so so I'm gonna put that on the z-axis, so we can look at the asset from the bird's eye view. And then I'm going to, well, if I drag this floor is going to be included in the the kill list. I'm going to disable that or like hide that. So I'm gonna click on this eye icon and then drag this and then hit X button and then delete those. So once I deleted that, I'm going to move around few walls here to make a closed up space so we can actually define the scope of our work. So the same thing, hit G, and this time I need to move it alongside the y-axis. I'm gonna move it slightly above here. I'll do the same thing on this one as well. And then, since this entire part is going to be the invisible zone, I'm going to delete those as well. And then let's close out some of these longer hallway as well. So I'm gonna select one of these, Command C, Command V, hitting G, and holding on to Y. Maybe somewhere like this is good. And then press G and X. Move it around, move it so it's closing off of this hallway. Command C and V. And then hitting G and X. So I can securely close off this gap here. And then I can delete everything in here by hitting X and hit delete. Oh, well, looks like there's some miscalculation here, and that's fine. I'm gonna hit Command Z to undo that, and then have it a little bit of a margin here. Hitting this button to go for bird's eye view. Trimming it down a little more, and then look at the camera, make the floor visible, and looks pretty okay from here. Now what I want to do is to trim it down even more. So the viewpoint or the user will be somewhere around here, and then the viewing angle is not going to be able to like see what's in here nor like anything in here. So I want to trim those down as well. And let's play it a little bit safe. Delete. Oh, well, as you can see, the floor is gone. I'm gonna hit Control Z and then hide the floor. Now I'm going to show the floor, and then go back to camera, and let's just do some final checking here and there. Make sure everything is right before we consolidate everything in here and go to texture baking. So what we're going to do is basically make this entire ceiling into one piece. But before we do that, let's actually change some of the like names. And I'm gonna select like these items, and then go to this object tab, and then rename it to sample ceiling 1. And then you can see the name's been like changed like that. And then I'm going to repeat the same procedure on other sample objects. Okay, now that these are out of the way, we can select everything here. And then we can do join. And then it'll join to the like a name to this like a ceiling here. And then I'm just gonna like name it to ceiling because that's what that is. And then I'm going to do the same thing on every single wall object. And then rename it to wall. Okay, now we got this solidified object, and now we are just almost ready to go to the bake setting. But before we do that, we need to make sure a couple of things. So I'm going to go to the preference of Blender by hitting Command and comma. Then as you can see on the system tab, you want to make sure that like cycle render devices is selected to this metal, and then you want to choose like whatever the GPU you have going on. And then Once you download the Simple Bake plugin, you want to install it from here, and then make sure that what is it? Make sure that it is enabled, and if it is enabled, you will actually see it from this render tab. Going on here, yep, like so. And then onto the baking, we want to do cycles bake. And then we're going to go to this cycle bake tab, and then we're going to change this from combined to diffuse. And then right now the sample is set to like a 4096. The more sample you have, the more accurate this will be. But if you but if you like have it to like say like a 4000, like this is going to like take up too much time. So for like just doing its sake, I'm just gonna like put it to 400, and then we're going to move on to this texture setting. This is where you can set the resolution of the text. I'm gonna put it to the 8K resolution, and then we're gonna go to this export setting, hit this export bakes, and after that we're going to move on to this UV setting. And we're going to select this new UV map, and then we can add object to bake. So we're going to go up here in the bake object, we want to select this wall, add all the object you want to bake into. Oh, after you added your object to bake, you want to go back to the UV setting here, and then we're going to have it to 0, and then we're going to uncheck this correct aspect. Okay, so double check all these like settings up here. Oh, actually, this bake margin wise, we want to put it as like say like 1 pixel or something like that. Okay, so that was the last, I promise. And then we can start baking. And this baking process can take a while depending on your processor, sampling size, and the texture size. And once the bake operation is done, then you will see these kind of like PNG files in the root folder. If you didn't change anything on the bake export setting, it'll be under simple bake underscore bakes. And then it'll look something like this. Okay, now that we exported our baked texture, now it's time for us to export our model to something that Reality Composer Pro can understand. So we're going to export this to .usd file, or I think this one gets exported as a USDC or something like that, but it doesn't really matter. So I'm not going to change anything, so I'm just going to like export it to the root folder, and we want to give it a root prim, and then you can just simply export this. Once the file has been successfully exported, you can actually see the USDC file in the root folder, and then now we can move on to Reality Composer Pro and Xcode to import this. Okay, so now that we exported our USDC file, and now we can come back to Xcode and then start adding that asset into the Xcode project. So we're going to go to this Xcode, open Developer Tool and Reality Composer Pro, and it will open up this Reality Composer Pro one right here, and then we're going to create this new project. And then we can specify which location we want to save this package at. Right now I'm gonna just put it in the package folder here as backroom. And this will create a new package for our project. So now I'm not gonna add this package to project just yet, but I want to focus more on mapping the texture to the object before we get onto that. So right now, as you can see, we have the scene opened up. We're going to close this one out at the moment. And then we will import our USDC file here. Actually, we can drag the file into the package. I think that'll be easier. And as you can see, this one automatically makes this texture folder, and it has all the original texture we used in the backroom model. But we are going to create our own folder called baked textures. And then we're going to open this up. And then we will drag and drop the baked texture from Blender. And then we will go back to the root folder and open up backrooms.usdc file. And as you can see, baked texture is not applied yet. And what you can see right now is just the default texture applied to the object. And what we're going to do right now is to map the baked texture onto the objects. And in order to do that, we will create a material that has a baked texture inside and point the object's binding material to that material we just created. So you can click the shader material tab and you can create a new material from there. I'm going to name this wall material and then move it under wall. And then right now I selected this cube underscore 118. Now I'm going to change the material binding to the wall material I just created. And we're going to select wall material, delete the default preview material, and replace that with unlit material. And from that unlit material, we're going to link another image to that unlit material, and this image will take onto the texture we just baked. Now the material has the texture, we're going to select the object and replace the material bindings for those objects under cube underscore 118. Once the material has been applied correctly, you will see something like this. I'm unsure why I'm seeing some gaps right here, but this is still a pretty good place to start. Anyways, we're going to repeat the same steps for the other object, say floor and the ceilings. So ceiling has emissive material binding. In Blender, this emissive property is oftentimes used as a light source. But we did not bake this into our texture, and the emissive part is just black, as you can see. We can edit emissive material to have unlit surface to mimic the light source that we saw in Blender. And then we're going to continue mapping ceiling texture to the objects. So the ceiling looks good. Moving on to the floor. Now this looks pretty good. And then we're going to hit Command S to save. Once you saved it, you will see there's like a dot kind of like disappear. And then we can safely close out this back room. And after that, we're going to go back to our scene. Let's rename this to backroom scene. And then we're going to open this up. And then we'll simply drag and drop. Now, as you can see, the assets orientation is messed up. This is because I believe Blender is using Z-axis as up and down, and Reality Composer Pro is using Y-axis as up and down axis. So we will have to tell Reality Composer Pro which axis it should use as up and down criteria. So you click on this empty space and it'll bring up layer data, and you can change which axis to use as vertical alignment. Now that we fixed the orientation issue, reset the camera, and we can move the backroom asset to the position we want to see when we launch the immersive space. So I selected the backroom asset, and I'm moving around the camera so I can see the axis manipulator. I can move my asset by dragging the little cones, and I'm gonna position the room to approximate location that I want to see. So right now we're looking down at the hallway part of the asset, but I want the default angle to be the room itself. So I need to rotate the asset to that angle. I'm zooming out a little bit so I can see which way the asset will be rotating. You can do this without zooming out, obviously, but Having a bird's eye view makes it a lot easier for me to understand how your asset is getting rotated by the each axis. So you can change the rotation on the transform section. If you want to, well, spin the asset around, I believe you have to manipulate alongside the z-axis. And make sure to check for the default camera position from time to time to ensure the correct positioning as well. And I want to look a bit down that way, so I'm gonna change the rotation a bit more. Okay, it looks pretty good, but we are still clipping off the wall on the side, so let's do some micro position adjustments. Okay, looks like we're at a pretty good space. This will be the default position and angle when you load up the immersive space with Backroom. And make sure to save, otherwise your package will load up the last saved version of this scene. In our case, it's the scene with nothing in it. 9 out of 10 times when I'm having an issue, it's when I forgot to save the file. So don't repeat the same mistakes that I did. Once you make sure it's saved, we can go back to Xcode and add this package to our project. And finally, load up the scene in immersive space. So first thing we're going to do is add the package here. So we're going to go to this add local. And then we can add the package we just added. So this is Backroom. Make sure the folder has package.swift. And we can hit add package. And make sure to add your package to the target. So right now we don't have to change anything here. So we're gonna just hit add package. And then let's check out the package.swift. So as you can see, the platform is set to VisionOS v2. Right now I think our project is set for 1.1, so we will have to change that to VisionOS 2. And the next thing we're going to do is to create a manager object to load the asset and provide the asset. So we're going to import the package we just imported. So Backrooms, import Swift UI, import and Reality Kit. And this will be a main actor as well as observable. And we're going to make this backroom entity an optional object. So it is initialized to nil and we will load up whenever we need it. And the next thing we're going to do is to write a function to load up the asset. Since initializing an entity from a bundle can be is a throwable function, we're going to do catch block here. And we're going to do an optional check here because we don't want to load it up more than we have to. So if self.backroom is nil, that means we haven't loaded up yet, or for some reason it did not load in the first go. So we want to try load the asset and assign it to the manager. And this name parameter is the name of the USDA file from the Reality Composer Pro. Don't get it confused with the backroom.usdc file we exported from Blender, because that file will not have the rotation and XYZ axis edit we did at backroom scene.usda file. And this bundle information, you can get it from backroom package we just added. We're just going to copy paste this. And since this is an async throwable initializer, we want to try await on this. Now that the manager is set up, we're going to add the reality view. So we can add Swift UI view and let's name it Backrooms Immersive Space. And of course, this will need Reality Kit. And I'm not planning on having any changes to the state. I'll just use make block of the reality view. And then before we forget, we're going to set up the environment variable here. It'll be environment, type of immersive ENV manager, .self, var immersive ENV manager. Make sure to give it an environment modifier from the app level, otherwise this will crash. And then we can check if our manager object already loaded up the asset. And if it did, we simply add the loaded up entity to content. And before we forget, let's add this to the window destination ID. Okay, now let's go back to content view so we can add a button to load up the immersive space. We're just going to copy and paste whatever we wrote up there. And then we'll simply just change the window destination to backroom immersive space. And let's change out the text to open backroom or something like that. Oh, content view will also need immersive ENV manager as an environment variable, so we can load up the asset right before opening immersive space. We can add it here, and we can add logic to load asset before opening immersive space right here. And we have to go back to the app level. We have to instantiate the manager somewhere, like that. And we have to provide immersive environment manager as an environment variable wherever we're using it. And we declare immersive space that uses backroom view and give it ID, and also environment immersive ENV manager. One thing to note is that simulator only has 256 megabytes of memory available to load the asset. I'm not sure if that increases depending on what kind of MacBook you're using, but I'm using M2 Pro with 16 gigabytes of RAM. But that wasn't my case. It crashed at 256 megabytes. So I'm running this on a physical device so I can make use of all the RAM it has for loading up the asset. Okay, the app has been built and we can hit the button and it will load up the environment we added. This looks pretty good. Texture can be a little bit more high res. You can further divide the asset into close part and farther part in Blender, and bake the close part in higher resolution and farther part in low res so you can save some memory and like disk space. But lighting wise, it looks pretty good. So this is for the tutorial today. Again, if there is a better way to bake and import to Reality Composer Pro, please let me know, and I will also include useful links in the description. So make sure to check those out. I uploaded the project on my Git if you wanna check out the code. Feel free to clone backroom custom environment branch, and I'll see you in my next video then. Thank you.